I think there's a variability. Some people, there is a big cost. They get the shakes, they can't sleep, and it has other neurotoxic effects if you have too much. So I think it's all about dose. And this is, it is a drug that if you get the dose right, is very beneficial for you. If you get it wrong or you've got some genetic problem, you can't process it right, it's a problem. But some of the benefits I was talking about are also there in decaffeinated coffee. So it also has these, because again, it's a great example of how we always think of coffee as caffeine, right? And yet, if you do these epidemiology studies, you know, these big population ones, people who are having regular decaf coffee also have similar heart benefits. So it's other things in this fermented bean that are helping us. And I think this is just, you know, it's a great lesson in moving away from our reductionism. We always like to think of, you know, one food is one vitamin or one chemical, and that's an easy way to think about it. We can't comprehend they've got 1,000 different ingredients. So decaf coffee, but yeah, well, you've got green tea is also pretty good. You know, there's many other fermented foods, but the polyphenols are really good and important to realize. In the book Food for Life, I go into exactly that. It's a practical guide to when you go into the supermarket and you go to the aisle, say, gosh, I'm in the vegetable aisle. Do I get my usual iceberg lettuce that 90% of us do because it lasts for 2 weeks or, you know, longer than our prime ministers? Or do we go for a slightly more expensive loose leaf Rossololo with purple leaves that has 1,000 times more polyphenols? The fact it's loose-leaved means that those plants have had to survive in more difficult conditions to fight off predators and wind and everything else. So they're tougher. That's why herbs and spices are also tough, because they're the growing tips of the plant. That's where you get all the good bits. And so it's a rethinking all this idea about what's good about food in this, when you start thinking about your gut and, you know, the sugars that it releases, etc. So for you, yeah, I mean, I think as a general rule, if everybody ate to keep their gut microbes happy, they'd be on a pretty healthy diet, even before you get into personalization. As an epidemiologist, if you drink 3 cups of coffee a day, you are less likely to die 10 years later. Jesus. In general, what I do when I look at these is I don't take any one study on its own. I would try to look at all the literature and say how many studies there are on that, and is there a confirmatory one that would make it real or not. So I've tried not to overclaim. Yeah. Because if you look at, you know, you look at the Daily Mail or, you know, the general press in the UK, they will pick up on any one story and say, coffee gives you cancer, coffee does this, coffee gives you dementia, next year, you know, it saves your life, it does this. So you can switch. But what I think people need to do is, you know, especially after COVID, is be much more sort of selective about how they see a study. It's epidemiology, you know, that it has to have confirmatory data. So I think, yeah, coffee, we know it improves sports performance by 1%, right? So for most people, that doesn't really matter, right? You know, 1%, am I going to run faster on my treadmill at the gym by 1%? No, but it does give you a little bit of focus, and for most people, it's a good drug that's found in food. And I like coffee because also it helps. It's allowed in a fast, so time-restricted eating, you're allowed black coffee and black tea. And because it doesn't cause a sugar spike or anything else, but you have to cut out the sugar.